Hey guys, Midwest Outdoorsman here with another knife review. We're going to take a quick look at the Bark River Bravo 1. An excellent knife. Now, do you want a knife for hunting? You know, that's a lot of times what I do is hunting knife reviews. And or do you want a knife for survival, or do you want something that'll fulfill both roles, or is great at one but it'll do a little bit of the other? You know, that's all something you have to take into consideration. And the Bark River Bravo 1, in my opinion, so far is the best knife that I have found if you want a knife that will fulfill the role of a hunting knife, that'll do it well, and a survival knife. This knife will do it all. It's super well made. Um, there's just not enough good things I can say about this knife. Let's take a look quick. Okay, first of all, your sheath options. It comes with this sharpshooter sheath, which is a leather sheath, which is a good sheath for being leather, good quality leather. Belt loop there has a fire steel loop for again with the survivalist type thing. So if you get lost, you have a fire steel. If you have one, you can stick it in there with your knife. Snap closure. Good quality leather. If you like leather sheaths, this is great. I usually prefer Kydex. So I went ahead and I got the Kydex sheath for it too. I got my stuff from DLT Trading online because they're based out of Wisconsin or right around the UP, and that's where I live is Wisconsin, so it's closer for me to deal with them, and I've always had good service from them so far. And the Kydex sheath is, I like it better than the leather just because it doesn't hold water, it doesn't keep moisture next to your blade, and I just like them better. As far as Kydex sheaths go, I've seen better. I mean, it's not the best Kydex sheath I've ever seen. I like Cold Steel, their Securex sheaths, the best pretty much out of every ones that I've seen. Really functional, they lock into place, really well thought out. But this is, a Kydex sheath, and it does work. You can adjust the retention on here, and this one fits pretty snug. It clips in there, that thing ain't coming out at all. You look at that. And you can adjust it too if you don't want it to be as hard or you want it to be tighter or whatever. It does have a belt loop here. This is all Kydex. This is not really flexible. All stiff plastic Kydex. There is no drain hole in here, which I would have liked to see a drain hole in the bottom, especially if you're out in the rain or something and it gets wet. You don't want that to fill up with water. I wouldn't have anticipated doing that, but if it does, you might want to shake it out, or you could even drill a little hole in the bottom or something if you wanted. But now on to the knife. Okay, this is the Bravo 1. There's a lot of different variations of the Bravo 1. It all depends on what you like. They have, this is what they call the Bravo 1 Field. And the steel I got this knife in is the 3v, it's cpm-3v steel. It's their super steel, super tool steel. And it's a great steel. I like it, especially for this type of knife. Now they do come in recently. I just bought this knife recently, and they also come in S35VN, which is supposed to be a little bit higher grade than S30V stainless steel. And then they have their A2 steel, which is like their standard steel, which is a really good tool steel, and they do a great job with it. It takes a razor edge. Little, it will rust on you if you don't maintain it properly. So it depends on what you use the knife for and what you want. In a steel, if you only want stainless, if you only want a carbon steel, if you want a little bit of both. For me, I wanted a knife, I have a lot of great hunting knives, and I wanted a knife that would fulfill the knife role of a hunting knife, but something, it's like the end-all knife that I could carry with me as a survival knife, as a hunting knife, and it would be good at everything. Not just, okay, you could press it into this role or that role, but you could really use it for all those intended purposes. And this thing is just fantastic. Some of them come with a thumb ramp, which is originally the version that they had, because they had the, which they still do, the Gameskeeper, and they had, I think it was some kind of special forces, the Marines or whatever, Marine Recon maybe. They took a bunch of knives off the internet, didn't tell the makers, and they put them through all kinds of abuse tests, and they did all kinds of stuff to them, and the Gameskeeper, and then there was one other knife that made it. And then they gave input to Bark River and about what they wanted and everything in a knife, and Bark River came up with the Bravo 1. And they call it a thumb ramp. It's not really a thumb ramp. You can use it as that, but it's for striking a fire steel or notching, I guess they say. That was more of what the military wanted. For me, I don't really need that or want that. Some people love it, you know, so you have to figure out what version you like best. And they do. This one has a lanyard hole here, and they have an external lanyard on some of them. They have a lot of different variations in handles. This is a tiger stripe, or not, yeah, midnight tiger stripe G10 handle. I like the synthetic handles, but they have all kinds of different exotic woods and buffalo horn, and they have, you know, mind-boggling amount of materials that they make out of for the handles, and also a good selection of knife steels. But this knife steel, this 3V, is super, super tough. It's one of the toughest steels out there. It's really a perfect blend of everything you want in a knife, especially a knife that you want to do everything with. It will take a great edge because it is a carbon steel, but it's also semi-stainless because of the vanadium, I believe, in it. And so it's not going to rust on you like A2 will. And I go out and, you know, I have an A2 knife and some other knives in A2, and they're great and they take a great edge. But I want something a little more corrosion resistant for my all-around knife that I plan on carrying with me pretty much all the time. And this fits the bill, especially when you're talking about a survival knife and a hunting knife together. Because that 3V is so tough, it's a little bit harder to sharpen than like your A2 and your D2. Not a whole lot, but a little bit, and that's because it's a hard steel, but it doesn't chip like a really hard steel. It holds that edge forever. And it does, you know, it'll eventually micro roll along the edge a little bit where you can strop it up and it'll come right back. But I mean, it holds an edge forever, and it's super tough, which is really important, especially when you're talking survival. Because if you're making shelters or whatever, you know, then you know, banging baton and wood with it, which you can. I mean, look at the thickness of that blade. It's 0.215 inch thick. That's the thickest, or one of the thickest blades you can get out there. I mean, check out and that's all full tang all the way through. I mean, it's not a super lightweight knife, but that's good as far as the role you want it to be heavy duty to do all those tasks with. It's 7.375 ounces for this version. The blade length is 4.25 inches, which I think is a perfect blend if you want it to fulfill a hunting knife role. Now, they do make other versions of the Bravo, where they have the Bravo 1.5, and I actually have one on order right now. I'll do a quick review on it when I get it. But the Bravo 1.5 is the same thing, only it's got a little bit longer blade, about 5.8 inches. The overall length of this knife is 9.065 inches. But I like about a 4-inch blade, you know, anywhere from 3.75 maybe down to 3.5 or so, all the way up to a 4.5. It all depends on what you're going to use it for and what you want out of your knife as far as your blade length goes. And you kind of have to figure that out for yourself. You know, how big your hands are, the type of game or the type of things you want to do with it. So that's something usually people have to figure out for themselves. For me, I usually like around a 4-inch blade. If I'm going to be doing survival and stuff, or even going after bigger animals, I might go up a little bit. Or even pair like a bigger knife, let's say a Bravo 1.5 that's got about a 6-inch blade or 5.8-inch blade, with something like a can't talk here for a sec. The Ken Onion Skinner, made by CRKT, I think it is. You know, a small skinning blade that will do a fantastic job at, you know, gutting out a deer and skinning it and everything, and then you can have your bigger knife as a like a survival knife if you want to carry two. If you're someone that goes sheep hunting or something, you might not want all that weight. You might just want one knife to do everything. That's all, you know, something you have to take into consideration. But for me, for one do-it-all knife, you can't get much better than these. And these are convex ground too, which is a different kind of grind. It's not a V grind, so the way you sharpen these is like with a strop and compound and stuff. And I found it's actually easier to maintain these, especially with 3V steel, because you don't really have to reprofile the edge or anything. You just got to keep it sharp instead of actually having to sharpen it. It just maintains the sharpness that's already there, and it'll hold it for a long time. And I have the jimping on here. You can buy this with no ramp, with just you know, regular metal on here. And I chose to get the jimping on there for a couple of reasons. For one, the handles on these are smooth. And Bark River says that, you know, that's a good thing as far as if you're going to use the knife, especially using it a lot for woodscraft and that kind of thing. It'll create hot spots if it's real sandpapery or real grippy like that, which I can see what they're talking about. For a hunter, though, sometimes you don't want a slippery handle or whatever, which is why I like the jimping, because it really, you get a good purchase on this handle. It's a big handle. I'm a bigger guy. I'm like 6'4", close to 200 pounds, and this handle's got plenty of room on there. And this jimping is aggressive enough where it locks your thumb in, so you got a good grip on this knife to do whatever you need to do, gutting, skinning, or even woodscraft. And usually you're probably going to have a pair of gloves if you're going to do woodscraft or whatever, because over a while doing crafting with wood, that might dig into your bare finger a little bit, make it raw. But if you have a glove and you're doing woodscraft, that's what I would recommend. But just for field use of gutting deer or moose or whatever, I think it's a great addition. So that's the route that I went, but you can choose whatever you want. And I just can't say enough good things about it. It comes out of the box sharp. I will say that the A2 versions that I've seen came out of the box a little bit sharper, like just hair-splitting sharp as you can possibly get. This one, it depends on the profile of the edge. Sometimes they make them a little fatter because these knives are so thick, and you can strap them up with like a diamond compound, especially since this steel is so tough. Diamond, they usually will get it a lot sharper, I think, anyway. You add that compound to your leather straps. And it's just a great all-around knife for anything you want to do. Survival, hunting, whatever. It's a heavy knife, so you have to take that into consideration. And if you're someone that likes exotic woods for collectors or something, man, they got everything you could possibly think of. Kyanite, sheep's horn, buffalo horn, whatever, stag, any kind of wood, micarta, canvas, all that good stuff. But for me, as far as a knife that functions as a survival knife and a hunting knife, I haven't found one better yet. Expensive, though. I mean, these are handmade here in, well, not in Wisconsin. I'm closer, though. Escanaba, Michigan is where they're out of. And DLT Trading, where I got this, is based out of Marinette, Wisconsin, I believe. And you can really tell the quality. I mean, the fit and finish on these is fantastic, and it should be. This knife was about $250. This is actually the most expensive knife that I own. And, so it better perform for that kind of money. Some people might say, well, yeah, it's money, but not a lot. I've spent more than that for knives. Or some people might say, that's crazy. I'd never spend that much on a knife. But, if you want something that is going to function for all-around use for survival and hunting, it's just a fantastic. I mean, you can really just, as soon as you pick it up, you can tell this is for serious duty. You could baton the hell out of this. Oh, that's my phone. Got my Arnold Schwarzenegger going on there for my alarm. But anyways, get back to the knife. Yeah, you could really baton some wood with this. Some people might say the blade's a little bit short for that, but if you want to function as a hunting knife, that it's a great all-around size, I think. If you want just a survival knife, I'd maybe go a little bit bigger with the Bravo 1.5, or even they make the Bravo 2, which is even larger. But for an all-around combo, there's not much better out there, in my opinion. Especially for the steel that you can get. This thing is going to be super tough, hold its edge for a long time, especially doing woodscraft or gutting deer and skinning deer. There's a guy, I think his name is Virtual Voice. He does a lot of reviews of like Bark River knives, every iteration of everything they ever had, pretty much. You can check out his videos too. He does a good job. He has his own opinions on what he uses them for, for steels and the shape of the edge and all that good stuff. But for me, this is my favorite probably so far all-around knife when I'm considering survival and hunting. I have other knives that I would like better if I'm going to just be using a knife for hunting, like the Cold Steel Master Hunter. I think that's probably my favorite out of every knife made so far that I've used for just hunting. But when you're talking about making shelters and that kind of stuff, a knife for serious work, in my opinion, this is the one to get. 3V steel. Bravo 1, Bravo 1.5 or so. Just a fantastic all-around knife. And any questions or comments, anything I left out or whatever, leave them there. I'll try to answer them. As always, be respectful. This is just my opinions from the stuff that I have and what I like and the way that I use it. So if you got another idea, I'd love to hear it. Hopefully this was helpful for you, and you can, especially when you're spending this much on a knife, maybe it'll help make your decision a little bit easier. If you're looking at a knife for all-around use or hunting or just for survival and the price you're willing to pay. So, hope that was helpful. See ya.